Welcome back to the lab. This is S3 Technologies' new studio for recording videos and talking about anything that is golf data. Really, really cool golf stuff. So Mark Timms, we're here today to talk about SPORTSBOX. I don't think many people know exactly what it is, so set us off and tell us who we're with.
Yeah, it's relatively new, obviously, last couple of years. I've been kind of looking at it for a couple of years, and actually Terry Rowles, who's my teacher most of the time when I ever take lessons, kind of introduced me to it, and we started looking at it, and it's really cool stuff, right? So it's AI. Everyone thinks AI is cool, but this really is useful for golfers. And we have just touching on the surface on what it can do, but essentially you video somebody and from that you capture all this data, right? On how everything moves in your swing. And what the AI's done is over time they've kind of developed that and got it more and more accurate. And we're looking at even club fitting because I think it's kind of cool, some stuff, and we'll kind of touch on that a bit. But Terry uses it for teaching, so he's the expert. You've been using it longer than I have. So he's going to fill us in a little bit on how he uses it and then how we kind of use it in fitting.
Well, Terry, let's put you on the spot. Like, SPORTSBOX doesn't even say anything about golf, right? So it's kind of lead us in from the very, very high view and dial us down to where you're at with it.
Yeah, we're going to actually do baseball next. So that's why it was SPORTSBOX and not GolfBox. So yeah, we're definitely in a AI time, number one, and we're also in a kind of a mobile time. And so, initially when SPORTSBOX started it, as a concept, it was probably pretty early, around COVID, sort of 2020.
Right.
And we first started to get, really good quality, we call it functionally accurate swings, where if I put up the avatar, you could tell who it was, right? And so the first one we put online was Jordan Spieth. I think it was May 2020. And we call that functionally accurate in terms of it looks like it should sort of thing.
Right.
And gradually, it's become more and more consistent, which is very important with data, more accurate. And so through time, it became, very highly kind of used by teachers. There's multiple thousand teachers that use it right now as a motion capture tool. And, the motion analysis is sort of, what we're talking about is what do we do with the data?
Right.
But motion capture itself is, we're capturing swings, we're turning it into consistent, accurate data, on the go. So, we can go on the golf course right now and get good data within seconds, where, we're all aware of previous motion capture systems where, it might take you 20 minutes to set up and then, put the dots on and this and that. And it sort of takes away some of the, the nature of that person's swing. So really it's like motion capture on the go. Accuracy is getting better and better and better. We actually did a lot of the early capturing and research, with coolclubs at Sunridge and Greyhawk. And, the AI was very much, it's almost like AI cameras, right? And so if you look at motion capture, there's always like multiple cameras.
Right.
And we were using Phil Cheatham's, AMM system, which is an electromagnetic system. And we would have, a lot of cameras additionally. And actually the first swing that we had in AMM, plus also we saw on SPORTSBOX was, that made sense was Bryson. So we had him at the top of the backswing, big backswing, sort of 2020 Bryson. And, the side bend, the shoulder turn, all the numbers were the same. So it's obviously very exciting to be able to compare them. So basically the AI has replaced like all those cameras.
Right.
And it's able to, to be a one camera system and give us numbers as if it was three cameras.
Right. Well, we used actually we've used gears, and we use gears in R&D and stuff, and it gives you really accurate data. Same as the AMM system, which is slightly different technology, but it's very, very accurate. The problem with that stuff is just not portable, right? And you've got to have, you're talking about $50,000 or more to set up a system that's accurate, and it's great, and it's cool for R&D, and it's great, for some people who have an indoor facility use it. But you can't take it outdoors, you can't play with it really quickly, and it doesn't make it accessible to everybody else on the planet, basically.
I also think a lot of those systems require, I think you touched on this in your intro there, is something on the body.
Yeah.
What I love about this is that you're free, you're making the golf swing that you make and you're capturing that as it is. There's nothing else going on.
That's right.
Just so, I mean, trying to dumb it down a bit more, and I'm going to lay some stuff over this, so hopefully it's playing right now. We're filming from a 2D plane. It's a camera face on or down the line, and it's giving us a three-dimensional picture of the golfer that you can literally toggle through angles below the player, above the player, down the line. And not only that, we're getting data on points of the body that are moving, points of the club that are moving, and like you said, working with cool clubs at different locations, we're also blending this with launch monitor data too. And I think that's where Cool Clubs is going to kind of link this together, is like, all right, very, very useful for teachers, and let's touch on that some more. And let's just try and think about our audience here today, which is going to be people that are investigating golf clubs. They might be sitting on the couch, they don't have access to a facility. Where is this possibly going in the ability to help people find golf clubs that are going to work for them?
Well, that's the virtual opportunity, right? I mean, we obviously use SPORTSBOX very much for online teaching, for example. As a teacher, when you look at somebody's swing, you maybe walk around, you move around, you sort of see certain things. But now, and it was actually pretty tricky for me to teach online lessons without, multiple cameras, let's say, because as a human, you do have sort of a three-dimensional view. But now, we can do 3D in Australia or England or anywhere, and we get it pretty quickly. Now, somebody could do this at home, hit 5 drivers, whatever. And we're also getting, motion information about their hands and club, right? And so that then, makes it more possible to sort of get a sense of who the golfer is, which is obviously what Cool Clubs has done a really good job of. And specifically, one of the, the important metrics is what's their tempo, how do they load the club, in addition to, obviously what you get off the launch monitor. So it's sort of, I think it's making more virtual access to information probably available. I mean, there could be people, have a launch monitor at home, or, a lot of people have studios now. But then additionally, you also get some information about not only the sort of the outcome data, it's more like going back and saying what caused it. What did the golfer do to cause that?
That's your job teaching part. That's hard.
Well, even just, even if you get your launch angle and spin,
right?
There's always a question. How did the person load the shaft, or how did they move, and whatever. So,
well, segue that into that with a real world example. Let's pull up this player that you've got right here, and let's just talk us through a few things that you would look at. And I don't want to jump the gun here, but you talk about swing categories. Let's touch on swing categories, and then we'll maybe go into how the Cool Clubs load portion might work.
Can I explain that? We're working on that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, let's use this guy as an example. Let's skip through a few frames here and talk some generics.
Ludwig Aberg.
Pretty current, Masters, great play there.
Yep.
And then
So Mike Adams, great friend of Cool Clubs, and I are, we've been working together for at least 5 years, and amalgamating sort of some of the research we've done and some of the work he's done previously to categorize swings. Just to give you sort of a background, Mike has had a very unique view of the golf swing. It's like, why do we do that? It's not just everybody does this, keep your left arm straight, whatever it is. His question, which is he and I share, is like, why do we do that? Like, who? He does this, the other guy does that, this lady does this, what is it that makes them do that? And so Mike will go down in history as having created kind of the Rosetta Stone of golf instruction. So Rosetta Stone, obviously know it as a translation tool, you see it on TV or whatever, but it was a real life example of, a stone with the data that was needed to make sense of all data. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
and so it's a keystone, right? So Mike, and the research that he did in terms of testing humans and finding out how they move and all the rest.
Well, there's a lot of measurements, right, on how long this part of your arm
how we
is,
move,
and how wide your arm span is.
100%. And so basically, when we look at all of that, that then makes sense of golf swings, especially good golf swings. So there's very few really successful players who are swinging not according to the way their body moves naturally, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so basically to segue into that, and so now SPORTSBOX, some of the metrics, and we created a metric called sway gap. So sway, basically, if you look at the upper body and lower body, it just means side-to-side movement from a sort of a face-on angle. Right. And there's a gap, right? And so you could have somebody like Bryson who's extremely stacked at the top, his upper body's over his low body, or you can have someone, like Mark, who is, moves more to the trail side, so his total sway is bigger, but his upper body is also more sort of behind his lower body. So, so historically we go, well, you got to stay behind it. Some people should stay behind it. Oh, no, you got to stay on top of it. Some people should stay on top of it. And the reality is the relationship, there's 9, right? So you can be the most forward, more in the middle, more behind the ball. Lower body, like Scotty Scheffler, he gets to the left side extremely early, Tony Finau, whereas you got people like Rory and Tiger kind of more in the middle, and then we got Ludwig Aberg here who moves to the trail side a lot longer. And so when you combine 3 times 3, you get 9. So we use sway gap now to define the fact that there are basically 9 golf swings. And to keep it kind of simple, that is both upper body and lower body metrics. And for me, I can, assign kind of a club delivery style to each of those 9 buckets. Some people do hit down on it more. I mean, PGA Tour average is like 1 down.
You're talking about club delivery. You're talking about angle attack.
On a driver, let's say,
all that stuff,
well, it also changes dynamic loft, contact point on the face.
Right.
Depending on how that person's moving, right? So some people, they rotate the club earlier, which sort of decelerates the handle, creates more loft. So there's people like Sergio, for example, who tend to hit more down, or Brooks Koepka,
right.
But it's a higher loft. And so you need to be able to understand that that type of person is going to hit it more consistently well with that kind of club delivery. If he goes to somebody and says, well, you got to launch it up in the air and hit up on it, it might well go 20 yards further, but they'll hit the toe and they'll lose control of the face. So the total package of how someone swings most consistently, most efficiently, all the rest of it is described by saying, okay, there are 9 different swings. We define it on SPORTSBOX with sway gap, and from there, those 9 swings might have 9 different ball flights.
Okay, so let's talk about how those 9 profiles might turn into 9 different golf shots.
Yeah, not so much though. So we're looking at different things as fitters and stuff. And one of the things that is a big variable and stuff is how do people load the club. You got 2 people swinging 100 miles an hour, and one person use Ernie Els as an example, long, smooth, fluid swing, or a VJ swing. That's centrifugal force, and it's pretty smooth how the power is delivered. Versus someone like a Nick Price or a really short, fast swing.
Jon Rahm.
Jon Rahm is like the fastest we've measured so far. So you would obviously see they put a lot more force on the shaft. Doesn't take us back as far. The distance it's traveling is much shorter on how much speed it gains, and they need stiffer shafts for that. So it's a way for us to quantify that. So a couple of things we're looking at in SPORTSBOX to kind of use that is, how far back the club goes. Also, the other thing that's kind of interesting is how far the club head travels. Because if you look at force, which is how much force you're putting on the shaft, it's really distance traveled and how much it accelerates during that period of time, right? So the short distance with a lot of acceleration, you need a much stiffer shaft to be able to stable at that point. So those are a couple of things we're looking at. We'll end up actually using probably, in SPORTSBOX, there's literally hundreds of different metrics. I mean, it measures everything, your wrist angle. I mean, and there's about 10 we've kind of isolated that we're looking at now. We'll probably narrow that down some, and we're generating a couple new ones. But it'll be a way for us to capture a swing and, be able to get a pretty good idea what shafts work, coupled with our database from S3, and, a lot of testing, a lot of data collection over the time. So that we can kind of narrow down that thing for a fitting so that we know, these 3 shafts are going to work pretty well right out the bat. Everybody talks about having 40,000 or 50,000 demos. Well, you can't hit them all. So our job is to kind of narrow that down really quickly. The other case for it is also, there's lots of people who can't get to us or a fitting facility, or they're embarrassed, they're high handicaps or whatever. And to be able to capture someone's swing like that, it gives us a lot of information. And we can actually do a pretty good job predicting what clubs work, for, especially mid to high handicaps, probably better than we can in a fitting environment when they've got to hit them all. Because primarily fitting is, basically trial and error. And the problem is if you don't swing the same each time, the one you happen to hit well, everyone thinks is the right club. And it may not be, it's just blind luck. So, for higher handicaps and people just starting, just that video gives us enough information to have a pretty good idea of what clubs work for them. So there's a big market for that, and that way we get to help more golfers.
Right, and I think one of the big things in club fitting and coaching for sure is there's plenty of good facilities out there, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, ultimately speaking, how that information is interpreted, to the player. So without, you can have a great demo matrix, and not saying there's bad fitters out there, but there's a person that will not know as much as some of the best fitters in the world, just hasn't had the experience. Golf coaches, not necessarily a bad coach, but someone who can look at this data and really understand what it means and what they need to do with it to get the best out of the player. So this is what S3 technology and SPORTSBOX is doing. It's culminating all of this knowledge, all of this data, and actually looking at it in a smart way and really figuring out how to deliver it and get the quickest, most efficient result. Because why we're all doing this is we want people to play better golf.
Exactly,
right?
that's it. Play better golf is literally what we're trying to do.
We don't
and
want to
whether
waste,
that's Terry doing that or us doing that,
Yeah.
we're all trying to do the same thing.
You don't want to waste more time. You don't want to waste your money on all these gadgets and things. And if you can spend some efficient time with a coach or a club fitter and get to the bottom line and know that you're on the right track, and I think that's what data does for everyone, right? It's that thing in your mind after the session's over. You're like, I actually made improvements in that area. I gained 5 yards. My sway gap is correct for my body style, whatever that looks like. You want that affirmation at the end of the day. So I'm super excited to bring S3 Technology, Cool Clubs and SPORTSBOX together, and hopefully you guys are excited about it, want to join us on this journey. We are going to need people to test this on and find out what their swing means for what golf clubs they're going to be playing. So
currently we're testing every Wednesday, and we get a bunch of different players in here and see what kind of data we get. And over a period of time, we gather a bunch of data, and obviously we know what shafts work for which people. But you'll see a lot of these technologies that Cool Clubs is always looking at. What technology can we do to help people play better? And this was definitely one of them.
Right. Well, I think this was a great theoretical lesson, right? We've sat here with a blackboard today and we've gone over it and we've read the textbook. So I think next step is really watching Terry and Mark interact. Let's get Mark swinging a few on SPORTSBOX. Let's get Terry out there talking through the numbers and
show you some of the stuff it can show us.
See what we can
do. What
do.
it means, actually. That's the tricky part. And that's what we'll learn over time.
Join us again for the next time, and we're going to see Mark up there on SPORTSBOX.
Yikes.